We are back on Sports Talk. Sports Talk Media Network. Phil Kornblut up in Chicago. Rest of this week for some family business, maybe a little MLB over the weekend. Looking forward to it. Glad you're with us wherever you happen to be. Maybe some of you taking off on vacation, getting ready for the July 4th holiday. We thank you for being with us wherever you're dialed in across the state, watching one of our streams on social media. Get back to your phone calls in a little bit. More notes to touch on. Recruiting as well. But right now, pleasure to have with us once again South Carolina Athletics Director Ray Tanner. And, Coach, welcome into Sports Talk. Hope you're doing well. Great to have you with us.
Thanks, Phil. Did you say you were in the Windy City?
I am indeed.
Wow, you taking in the Cubs, the White Sox? What are you doing?
Yes, the Sox. Cubs are out of town. Sox play the Rockies this weekend, so maybe going over there on the south side.
Well, good for you.
Yeah,
awesome.
Looking forward to it. We thank you for joining us. Always great having you on. So let me just dive right into things. Give us your take on what happened between Texas A&M, your reaction to everything, how that went down, how Schlossnagle handled that press conference Monday night. Just give us your feeling as you were watching this unfold. I'd love to know what you were really thinking.
Well, it's interesting. It was a dynamic, and I knew the background a little bit with Chris Del Conte when he was athletics director at TCU, and Schlossnagle was the baseball coach there. They had a great relationship and worked well together, and so it wasn't surprising that once he made a decision to terminate his coach at Texas, that Schlossnagle was going to be the guy that he wanted to bring to Austin. So that wasn't surprising, I don't think, to people in the baseball circles. You alluded to the question that Coach Schloss got asked on after the championship game. It's a difficult time. You just lost the game, and you get asked a tough question. You ask hard questions, Phil, sometimes, and probably in hindsight, maybe you should have answered it a little bit differently. But it is what it is, and things happen, and people move on, and Texas A&M will find a new coach, and Coach Schloss will join Chris over in Austin.
Look, you sit in a different seat than the rest of us. You're part of that world. You're part of that business. Those of us not there in that seat, outside of it, we look at that as being kind of dirty pool. Do other ADs, do you look at it as dirty pool, or do you look at it as just the way the business is run today in college athletics, or maybe always has been run?
Well, I don't think it's always been run that way. This is, I guess, next week or soon I'll be entering my 13th year. So I've seen the business change, even in the athletic director chair. But since I've been involved in college athletics my entire professional career, things have changed. There was, you start with players. There was never kids didn't transfer, and if they did, they sat out. And then once they did transfer, there was always, in most cases, some sort of conversation among the leadership, whether it's coaches or ADs. And then when it comes to situations like this, a lot of times I typically, if I'm going to talk to somebody's coach, I'm going to call the athletics director at the other school as a courtesy. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times that happens, but a lot of times it doesn't happen, Phil. It doesn't happen throughout. There are occasions, but not all the time, and that's just sort of the evolution of the business. That I got to go get a new coach, and you deal with the contract and deal with the circumstances. And I know that there have been some among my colleagues, and I'm not just speaking from the SEC, but across the country. There's times that people have angst with each other over decisions that are made, but it's changed. It's just not. It's not like it was many years ago. Certainly.
Yeah. It's not a gentleman's game anymore, is it, among ADs when it comes to going and getting a coach? It's to us, to me, it's not a real good look, but do the people in charge care about the look anymore? It's a matter of going and getting my guy, and over time things will settle down and people will move on.
Well, I think there's something to that. You and I have been around for quite a while, so we've seen it on the other side, and it's just different. And I think that the other way was good. I think it was more collegial, if you will, than maybe it is today. But it's where we are. And I think that, when decisions are made, and you can remember when coaches did go from place to place, a lot of times it was not within the conference. It was from another conference to your conference or vice versa. But that's all gone by the wayside at this point.
So Texas A&M is looking for a coach, and I mean, look, they're pissed off. They're liable to break the bank to get whoever they want to get to come to their place. So, I mean, you just hired a big-name national championship Hall of Fame winningest active coach in college baseball in Paul Mainieri, and you got him with a great contract. But are you checking on him to make sure he's, locked down in Columbia, not, taking any phone calls from over in the Texas area?
Well, he and I did have a conversation today, so I checked on him a little bit. But no, I'm not concerned about that. We have a signature, so everything is good. But yeah, I would guess that Trev Alberts would be trying to do what he can to make a splash, and I don't know, as we sit here right now, I don't know who that person might be, but Texas A&M certainly can do what they need to do to hire a coach.
Yeah. Have you heard any names that have some legitimacy that you want to throw out there?
No, I haven't. I have heard a couple of names, but I wouldn't throw anybody's name out at this point. But I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. This is a great league. I mean, we had two teams playing. You mentioned A&M and Tennessee playing, and Tennessee won it all. Congratulations to Coach V and Danny White over Tennessee. But this league's incredible in so many sports, if not all of our sports. So it's challenging, and you want to try to put yourself in the best position to be successful, regardless of the sport.
Is the league ready for Texas and Texas A&M to be together? Because, I mean, you think about, Auburn and Alabama, okay, obviously that's been the heavyweight in the league forever. But this thing, Texas A&M, is it possible that could trump Alabama, Auburn in terms of just pure hatred and intensity between these two institutions?
Well, I think it probably got ratcheted up, but not, with the with the baseball situation. But it's all good. I haven't known Trev very long since he'd gone over to A&M from Nebraska, so he hasn't been in the room a long time. But I've known Chris Del Conte for quite a while. So. Two great schools and guys that are trying to win at a high level, both of their institutions. So these things happen. You got to try to go after the best. And Jim Schlossnagle's proven that he's one of the best in building a program as anybody in the country. And there was an existing relationship that they had from years ago, and now it's been revived.
Well, I tell you, the College World Series was great. I sense a major, not necessarily a resurgence, but a surge in college baseball. Tell me if you agree with that. The popularity of college baseball may be ratcheting up several notches, which is a great thing for those of us who love college baseball. Maybe from your standpoint, administration standpoint, it's already more costly for you. It's going to be more costly across the board for schools, as I think, college baseball seems to be taking a major step forward across the board in terms of facilities and television viewership and just national interest. Are you sensing that?
I am, and maybe some other sports as well. Softball has certainly, made some progress over the years as well. But because of the draft, Major League Baseball draft is shorter now. I believe 20 rounds. You've got the NIL world going on in intercollegiate athletics, so that changes the dynamics considerably. Also, when you get right down to it, college baseball players are getting developed at a high rate, and it's evident that if you're really good at this level, not just Paul Skeens from LSU last year, who's already in the big leagues, but others, Wyatt Langford, and guys that were already on big league rosters in a short period of time. You don't have to go into professional baseball right away, which makes the caliber of play at the collegiate level really, really good. The fan interest is good. It's a shorter 56 games. In the big leagues, you play 162. So those 56 have tremendous value. There's a lot of importance on midweek games, and more season tickets are being sold, more viewership, as you mentioned. So, yes, you're spending more, but there's a chance that your revenue is also growing at the same time. But I do agree with you. I think it's an all-time high. Tickets were hard to come by in Omaha, that's for sure.
Absolutely. I think the TV numbers are going to be really, really good. Considering it was a regional event for the most part, I mean, I don't consider Texas A&M to be the South, but it was all SEC, all ACC. Some thought that might be a turnoff to the rest of the country, but I don't think it was.
I don't either. And it's different, and certainly there's Big 12 baseball that's good. The West Coast has had some really, really good teams. Even the years that the West Coast had such good teams, if you go back to UCLA, Fullerton, Southern Cal, it's been a long time, but others, they had good programs, but the fan interest wasn't the same as it is in the Southeast. So we've been ahead of them for many years now, and I think that's as high as it's ever been. And then you see 4 ACC, 4 SEC teams make it to the Omaha, and it was a pretty neat setup.
You mentioned ticket sales, popularity. You've got a new coach. Is going to no doubt bring new energy, enthusiasm, excitement, and interest to your program. I mean, I know nothing's happening over there at Founders Park right now, but could you foresee a time here in the near future where the 8,000-plus seats that you have at Founders Park won't be enough? Thoughts of possible expansion, or do you think you're sitting at a good number right now with what you've got?
I like the number. I've always liked it since we opened it. I thought we were in a good spot where we would have 8,000. I think sometimes you get 12 or so. It's too many. But I do like the idea of pressure to have more potential seating around the outfield, or some creativity, if you will, on the right field side, or whatever the case may be, with more seating, and if need be. But 8,000 is a good number. I think it's 82-42 on sellouts, and I think that's good. If we get pushed to 10,000, we'll gladly accommodate that.
Sure. Early thoughts on Paul Maneri and what you're seeing from him at work in a Gamecock uniform?
Well, he's busy. I mean, today when I chatted with him, he was entertaining a prospect as I was on the phone. I understood I needed to be quick because he had a visit, and he's been tirelessly working since he got here. And I called the other night. I think it was Friday night maybe or so. It was 6 or so. I was leaving the office, and I called to check on him, and he said he was still in the office. I said, well, let's go have dinner. So we went and had dinner and talked baseball for 2 hours, and so it's he's got tremendous energy. He missed the game. You know the story. He had the neck issue. He had some surgery, and it was somewhat extensive, and he just couldn't continue to coach at the time. He really never finished his career, if you will. Mm-hmm. And this gave him an opportunity, and we've been friends for a long time. And I told the story. I was betting out some candidates, and I knew he had some interest last year at a couple of schools, and certainly I wanted to check his temperature on coming to Columbia, and he was excited about it. So we made some progress in a short period of time, but he's got tremendous energy, and he can't wait to get going. And I love what he had to say. He's not interested in a 3-5 year rebuild, or let's go. We had a pretty good team last year. We won 37 games. We got some guys back, and let's try to get in the mix. So, and that's what it's all about. It's a great league, a lot of excitement. We need to be in the midst of it.
I have no doubt that he'll have you right there. Visiting with Ray Tanner, athletics director at South Carolina, for a few more minutes. Let me ask you a couple of questions here on the business side that I don't particularly like to talk about, but it's something that we have to always talk about this day and age with college sports. The settlement that's coming eventually, the House lawsuit and the others, and we've seen the figure of $22 million each school's going to have to fork over as part of that. Where are you guys with that at this point, preparing for that from your office?
Well, we're preparing. You can rest assured it's a daily conversation. We've been working on it for quite a while, expecting that there will be a settlement sometime in the near future. And the number that you threw out, I would expect it to land somewhere between 18 and 22. That'll be divided among the student athletes. How that gets divided, we do not know. Is Title IX a component? That we don't have parameters of that yet. And I think Judge Wilkin has made the statement, I believe, that Title IX would be up to somebody else to decide, not her. And so all those things will have to be vetted out and decided. We are talking about a settlement, but we really don't know the parameters. So we know that there's going to be some sort of revenue sharing among the athletes. NIL does not go away. That's still another component, but it will be handled differently going forward than it is today. It will be more marketplace driven and proven with an entity that will have to approve decisions that are made or deals that are made. So it is a different space, but I'm somewhat confident, and maybe I feel a little bit more reassured that we will know what the rules are as we move forward. Rules might be too strong a word, but I use parameters again. That we'll know what the parameters are. In the current situation with NIL, it's sort of all over the map. A lot of people say it's a wild, wild west. Well, as we move forward with a settlement, the parameters could be somewhat similar across certainly the power schools, if you will, and it's permissive legislation, Phil. Everybody's not going to do $20 million, but I think we'll get to a place that maybe it's more evenly distributed, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Do you foresee some schools having to eliminate some sports to accommodate this in their budget?
I think it's going to be discussed at some places. I don't anticipate that being the case here. I don't anticipate maybe in the Southeastern Conference. But, I know that those conversations occur, that it could be a possibility, but I don't want to see that. I want to maintain, when I say I'm talking about collectively. I want us all to continue to sponsor the sports that we have. We're 21. We're 12 women and 9 men, and I want us to continue to try to do what we need to do to be competitive in those spaces. But the elimination of sports, I think, is not where we want to go.
Where are you with the selling of sponsorship patches on your uniforms? And, of course, you got your Founders Park, you got your Colonial Life Arena. Williams-Brice, I know selling the name rights to the stadium might be taboo because you've got a family name on there, but the field, are your people working on putting a sponsorship type name on the field?
Potentially, all things are on the table at this point. As you know, revenue generation is paramount in this day and age as we move forward in the NIL world and the financial pressures that we have in intercollegiate athletics. So I met with a group the other day that, they said, "You were the former baseball coach." I said, "Yes, and I like my wall to be green. I didn't want to see advertisements on the wall." and for about 30 seconds, the room got quiet. And I said, but I realized that we probably moved on from that because, you can flip on the TV tonight, Major League Parks, you see advertising everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
So it's just it's different than years ago, but I think you're going to see more and more of different types of sponsorship, whether it's on the wall, on the field, the ribbon boards, whatever the case may be. It's revenue generation is a must.
Last thing, and we'll let you go. This is a question of, really, from my standpoint, because it's a pet peeve of mine. Really, I get the NIL stuff now. It's been several years. I've, personally sucked it up, accepted it. Okay, that's the world we live in. We live in. That's all well and good. And I know it's used as part of recruiting, but it's still it drives me crazy. It gets under my skin when I see schools on social media with recruits. touting, what's the word I'm looking for? Well, like I saw some visits this past weekend at schools, and they had the kids in front of these expensive cars. Like, you come to our school, you're going to get yourself this fancy car. To me, it kind of smells of exploitation in some way. I don't know if that's the right word or not. I haven't seen that from you guys or Clemson when it comes to your social media people with the players on campus for their visits. They do their pictures and they play up the Gamecock theme and the excitement and all that, but I don't think I've seen any of that kind of stuff from you guys. And my question to you is, do you ask your social media people and your coaches not to go that far with it, or do you care if they were to take them out and put them in a Jaguar and kind of try to show people, hey, you come here, you can get a Jaguar? What is your position on that? Do you have a position on that?
Well, I think I'm probably maybe, Phil, you and I might be on the same page when it comes to some of that. Recruiting is important. And, whether you're on social media or whether it's on a visit for the weekend, it's important for a young man or young woman to understand exactly what the opportunities may be. But I think there's different ways of sharing that kind of information. What you alluded to, I don't think it has to be done that way. So I would tend to agree with you that we should stay away from that as much as possible. But recruiting is important.
Do you ask your social media people to kind of stay above board with that kind of stuff? Is that anything you've ever talked with them about?
No, I have not specifically had a conversation, sit down and say, we're not going to go this far, we're not crossing this line. But we haven't done it. So I wouldn't anticipate that we would do it in the future, that if we thought maybe it might not be as tasteful as we would like for it to be.
All right. Any big announcements coming out this summer related to, football scheduling you're working on, or anything else people should be looking forward to?
I don't think so, but, June is gone and July is around the corner, and, we'll be into our fall sports before you know it. It's a little breathing time, for football staffs especially right now, and even on campus. So it's a little bit quieter than normal, but, being on a campus, I've been on a campus since I left high school, so it's exciting. I'm very fortunate that I'm in a position that I get to be around young people and student athletes that are achieving, on the field and in the classroom, and it's still a great place to be. I know there's been a lot of changes and they're challenging, but we adapt and we evolve and we keep moving forward. The popularity of television football is still extremely popular. CFP is coming in a different way, and so there's, of all the things we talk about in college athletics that are different, and a lot of people might not like it, it's still very popular, and it's still great to be a part of it.
Absolutely. Listen, I was in that group when all this started happening. I thought, this is going to be the death of it, but it seems to be the opposite. I think maybe gambling has something to do with it. I think people are so into gambling. That's why my theory is that's why TV numbers are up high, because people have got $5 riding on this baseball game or $10 on this basketball game. That's just my personal take on it, but I think you're right. I think the popularity and the support is still there.
It's different. Everything is different than years ago. Where you can remember, we've evolved. It was, you had to hire great coaches. You had to improve your facilities. It was the arms race, and then NIL hit, and it's a different thing. Graphics were a big deal. Not as important right now as they were at one time. So we go through different periods in intercollegiate athletics.
Coach, as always, we appreciate it. Thank you for hanging in there with us. Have a great summer. Look forward to seeing you around. Football season will be here. We'll see you at ball games and such, and we appreciate your time tonight.
Thanks, Phil. Enjoy the White Sox and some good pizza.
Looking forward to it. Yes, sir. Thank you very much, Ray Tanner, AD at South Carolina. Top of the hour break, and we'll be back.